I've seen people who don't have very much skill and they've got incredible confidence and they charge their worth and they get it. Copywriting is not just about the words you write, you're actually paid to think. I can literally go in and charge 10 times what they're paying their copywriters on salary, and they'll pay me every single day. Why? Because I have all the other skills that make me extremely valuable. So I'm what you call a full stack marketer, and I can very quickly see where the holes are, and I know exactly what needs fixing and where. And that is extraordinarily valuable. It opened up a whole new world for me, right? And it started pulling into things that I had a lot of experience in. So my background, I actually originally was doing a psychology degree, and then I switched over to doing IT, and I fell into digital marketing. So it's like copywriting plus digital marketing. And I felt like that was like a powerhouse combination. But I still was not quite there yet. Then I came across the Warrior Forum. It was just a random sort of Google search one day, looking on how to get clients. I stumbled upon this forum, and oh my God, I felt like I struck gold, right? Because not only did I get on this forum, but I found my copy coach, Paul Hancock, so I'm still in touch with. Actually, I had a conversation with him yesterday, and he mentored me one-on-one for an entire year. So I got trained by this like A-list copywriter for an entire year, one-on-one, and the Warrior Forum became the home for me, right? And so that's how I started getting my first clients consistently. I mean, I would pick up clients here and there from places like Upwork and whatnot, but the Warrior Forum was pretty much where it was at. So I listed my services on the actual forum. I wrote a couple of promos for clients, which literally smashed it out of the park. I got Warrior special offer of the day, and then there was JV Zoo of the day, and goodness knows what else I was able to get. And that's literally what kickstarted my career, right? And so I was able to make enough money that I could basically leave my now ex and started my life all over again. I changed cities, moved to a completely, just moved back home to my hometown, and the rest, as they say, is history. But it took a long time for me to build up the confidence, really, to charge what my worth was. I mean, I was making people a lot of money, but I still didn't have the confidence to be able to say, hey, you know what, I want to charge more for this. And I guess that comes with experience, and it comes with a lot of practice as well. So that's kind of like where I started from, really. Oh, I can't hear you, Shaq. You're on.
I haven't heard of Warrior Forum in a long time, but that's where I got my start as well.
Career.
That's how I got my start as well. Warrior Forum, just digging through. And today the new version is you can use Upwork to get clients, right? So it's like two things, right? Like one, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, this is amazing how you've stumbled onto this, and then it's like, whoa, like most people still don't even understand what copywriting is, but the power of being able to turn your words into cashola is a very powerful skill. And as you were talking, and I was thinking to myself, you know what, you're what I call a millionaire maker. That's why I know this, right? Like, because people that get hired the way you do, even the way I do, is because, and we get paid the big bucks. I know some of your services are very expensive as well. And the reason it's not expensive, it's premiumly priced and reassuring.
The way I look at
it, it's reassuringly priced for the right person, right? So it's like someone that pays you 25K for a funnel or whatever. They know, hey, I'm going to get X amount more. The thing is, when you're starting off, how do you build your confidence where you can charge more?
Do that's a fantastic question, because the confidence really is internal, right? It's how you feel about it. I've seen people who don't have very much skill and they've got incredible confidence and they charge their worth and they get it, right? But with me, it was kind of the other way, right? I had to first build my competence, and then that brought the confidence with it, right? But also, I think the thing that really sort of struck a chord with me is copywriting is not just about the words you write, you're actually paid to think. And anyone that thinks that copywriting is just about writing, I feel like they've missed the point, right? Like, I can go into an organization. So one of my clients right now, they've got internal copywriters on their team, and I can literally go in and charge 10 times what they're paying their copywriters on salary, and they'll pay me every single day. Why? Because I have all the other skills that make me extremely valuable. So I have a strategic background. I understand digital marketing. I'm what you call a full stack marketer. So I understand every element of the funnel, right? I can go into an organization and I can very quickly see where the holes are, and I know exactly what needs fixing and where. And that is extraordinarily valuable, right? So if I'm coming into an organization, I'm coming in with a fresh pair of eyes. There's no emotional connection with any of the stuff that they've created. I'm coming in completely with an objective viewpoint, and I can immediately see where the problems are, and then I can put plans together that is essentially help to fix those profit leaks, or that's what I call them, right? They're all profit leaks within the business. But then I've also in a ridiculous number of controls, right? So one of my clients right now, I've actually lost count of the number of controls I've written within that business, right? I mean, today I've done 9 figures in sales for my clients, right? I've done over 130 million for my clients combined. But the reason why is simply because of that level of experience, right? So even like one of my sort of big breaks, I would say pretty early on in my career, is I was project manager for a company called Pure Matrimony. And I worked in that company for 5.5 years. And when I got in there was no systems, no processes, nothing in there. And by the time I'd left, I'd systemized the entire business from start to finish, right? So it's like they could run super efficient now because they had all these funnels in the back end that was doing all the heavy lifting for them. And that was a membership site, right? And so things like that, those types of skills that I developed over there, I was able to take those skills and apply them to other clients. Now, when I get called into like working with like right now, I'm working with a New York Times bestseller. I'm not allowed to name who it is because I'm under NDA, but it's like last year I worked on this absolutely extraordinary project with a world famous thought leader. Again, can't mention who it is because they're under NDA, but last year I also worked with Dr. Berg, right? And this is somebody who's doing like 8 figures already and has already got an in-house marketing team. And one of the biggest problems that they had was they had problems with the conversions inside of their funnels, right? So they're what I call very endemic of a fast growth company. So these are companies that build, but they don't look at the impact of what they are building on the entire customer journey, right? That's the point at which somebody comes into your world where they get indoctrinated, they then upsell, they become, an actual paying client, and then making sure that that person is following a path that continually ascends them, into, the next price offering or the next price offering. Ultimately, with any businesses, especially larger businesses, I mean, your business is actually a really good example of this, Shaq. It's like your focus has to be on lifetime value of your clients, right? You can't have somebody coming in paying you once and then disappearing because it's so expensive to get the lead in the first place, right? It's so expensive to be able to bring that person in as a client in the first place. So your goal as a business is to really maximize the lifetime value of that client.
Nice. And then in terms of what I would ask is, what's your top strategy for increasing lifetime value?
I would say there's a couple of things that you have to look at, right? Number one, you have to look at who is the ideal customer, right? And really getting granular on that. It's not enough just to know who the avatar is. I would say split the avatars into what I call personas. These are subsets of the same avatar. So for example, if I look at your business, your business is actually a really great example of this. So if I look at the people who come in, I could probably split them into different categories or different buckets, right? We've got total newbies. These are people who don't know anything about online marketing. Now, trying to sell them your high levels funnel services probably wouldn't work, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the budget. They probably don't even have the expertise or the skills or anything like that. So they need probably an off-the-shelf solution that they can probably go through themselves. Then you've got your experts. These are people who've been in business for a while. They are looking to, dramatically up the flow of their business. They need more paying clients. And so that's going to need a completely different, different solution. Then we've got some of the clients, for example, I know Todd, for example, that he's a really great example of this, right? Amazing at what he does, like what I call a super expert, right? Super skilled, super focused at what he does, but his thing is all about scale, right? He wants to bring in as many people as possible. He wants to grow his business quite radically. They're looking for scale. And then you've got businesses that are already scaling, but they're kind of stuck, right? And so these are going to become your super high level clients, right? So just right there, that's 4 buckets altogether, right? And so what you need to start doing is you need to start building out individualized journeys for every single one of these buckets. And when you do that, that's how you start increasing the lifetime value of your customers, because they're starting on one end, but actually by the time they've gone through that, the question that I would ask myself is, okay, if I solve this problem for this client, right, what's the next problem that they need solving? Right? And the next problem, and the next problem, and the next problem. The second you can't help them any further, they're just going to go elsewhere. So you've got to really look at the problem ladder. People talk about the value ladder. Well, I think that a more important question is, what is the problem ladder, right? where are we starting? Where do we want people to end up? Where are we taking people? What are the different vernaculars, and how do we craft those journeys independently? And so it's what I call internal scaling, right? So we're scaling from the inside rather than going out there and finding more customers, because that takes a lot of effort, energy, and a lot of money. Right? It's one of the reasons why businesses go broke, is just in acquiring the customers, right? It's more the way that I would look at this. If you want to increase lifetime value, there's only literally 3 ways you can do this, right? You either increase the number of customers, okay, which is very expensive, or you can get them to purchase more frequently. That's known as your average order frequency, or you get them to purchase items or services that cost even more, right? So they're a greater investment, right? And that's your average order value. And if you multiply all them together, that gives you the lifetime value of a customer, right? But what people forget is that behind all of that is your ideal client. It's like the foundation for all of those things to grow. I mean, I talk about this at length inside of my book, actually. But that's one of the things.
Actually, talk about the book. Let's talk about the book. What has the book done for you?
Oh, it's unlocked a lot of opportunities for me. I mean, okay, so case in point, when Dr. Berg, I mean, he's so famous. He's like one of the most famous doctors on the internet. When he basically came to me and he booked a call, I had a copy of my book sent out to him. So by the time we got on the call, he was holding the book in his hand. And he actually said to me, you know, I'm very picky with the kind of books that I read. And I just read the back of yours and I read a little bit on the inside, and I knew immediately this is a book that is going to be super valuable for me and I'm going to read the whole thing, right? And so what I did was I actually gave him a lot of confidence in me and my ability to be able to help that business, right? And so ultimately what I have found with my book, and this has been like a standard strategy, when somebody wants to book a call with me and they are looking at working with me, one of the first things that I do is I get my, I get my assistant to basically send out a copy of the book. By the time the person's gotten on a call with me, they're already pre-sold. It just makes the process so much more effortless. You know, I don't need to convince them, because I mean, one of the clients in particular, so this is going back in January now, famous ex-footballer. No, that's all I'm going to say, right? And so he's now moved into property management, and he heard me on another podcast, actually, went and bought my book, and him and his business partner, by the time I got on the call with them, and when they booked the call with me, they had done every single exercise inside of my book and printed them all out.
Nice.
And I actually met them in Manchester, met in person. And then they went and it was a no-brainer for them to hire me and get me into the business. Was a no-brainer. I didn't need to convince them of anything. They already knew that I could help them, you know.
And in the book, what kind of exercises have you included for your prospects, right?
Super practical ones. So this is all about, I mean, the entire book is about ideal clients, right? And it's about really understanding what motivates your ideal client to want to buy from you, right? So this is buyer psychology, like a real deep dive into buyer psychology, but then taking that psychology and actually turning that into profitable campaigns. That's what this book is about. I mean, the reason why I wrote the book in the first place is because a lot of times, you know, for example, I'm not going to mention any names here because I wouldn't think that would be fair, but a lot of even really famous marketers, do you know what they do? They'll give you one session on avatars, right? You know, oh, ideal client, you know, and they'll do one exercise with you on ideal clients, but then you've got that information and you don't know what the heck to do with it. This is one of the biggest problems that I see with a lot of these big companies, right? And I was like, this is an area that I don't feel has been explored thoroughly enough. And so that's what I do inside of my book. The whole thing is about the ideal client and then building out customer journeys based on who the ideal client is. Oh, you're on mute again, Chuck.
In the book, are you sending people to book a call with you, watch a webinar? What's the call to action in the book?
They're going into a quiz funnel. So
they're going into a quiz funnel.
They're going into a quiz funnel. So basically, I've got a QR code inside of my book. You literally scan the QR code. It will take you to a quiz funnel. And what that does is it's designed to help you understand where the problems are inside of your business, right? So you take this it's like an assessment. And in 2 minutes or less, you'll know exactly where to look for the problems. And then what I do is I've split it according to, because obviously I'm putting the principles of my book into action. I've got 3 campaigns that are running. So I split people between, if they're below 6 figures, if they're at 6 figures, or if they're at 7 figures plus, because the way that I'm going to talk to all of them is going to be radically different, right? Like, for example, people who are below 6 figures, they can't book a call with me because that's not my ideal client, right? But the people that are 6 and 7 figures, they can definitely book a call with me, right?
Yeah.
And so the way that I handle the list is very, very, I've got 3 separate lists and I handle them very, very differently. The below 6 figures, that's like literally so much value that's packed into that, because my goal is to get people from there to their first 6 figures so that they can come and work with me. That's the whole point, you know.
Nice.
We look at problem ladder, that's how I'm doing it.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Something I should do. Yeah,
you should totally do it. Oh my God, you should totally do it.
Because I have a huge list and I basically just communicate with them the same way. Yeah. It's just like,
that's like, I would say, if you want to maximize your money, and you could do this literally within a month, it'll probably take you about a month or so to sort it all out. But if you start segmenting out your list, I'm telling you, you'll be able to squeeze even more money out of your list.
Done. I'll get on it straight away today.
Yeah, totally. That's what you need to be doing. You know, I actually did this inside of one of the businesses that I work with. I went and did this exact same process that I've just explained. And we actually, for this business, we identified 8 different avatars, right? It was crazy, right? And then anyone that didn't fit into those categories went into sort of a general avatar. And when we switched this thing on, and it had over 100 emails in it, right? When we switched this thing on, and we're only selling a £14 product, it was a subscription, monthly subscription. The first month we did 143 extra sales with no increase in ad spend.
Wow.
And that equated to around about £2,000 in revenue, no additional spending, ad spend, and that was like clockwork. So we now had 24K over the course of a year that went straight to the bottom line without a single increase in ad spend. It was crazy.
Okay, that's fun. I like that.
Yeah, it's you getting more bang for your buck. Right. I mean, you work so hard to get those people in the first place, and goodness knows how much. I mean, I don't know what your cost of acquisition is. I don't know what your cost per lead is, but what you're doing is you're maximizing on that. You're maximizing the ROI that you're getting back on that.
Yeah. Okay. So, wow. All right. There's so many ways we can go over lots of different things. One is in terms of traffic sources. What traffic sources have you seen to be the most highest converting?
So I think in general, I've seen Google probably performs better than anything. So YouTube, Google, because you got to think about, again, right? So I'm going to go back to the psychology of your customer, right? Why Google? Because it's intent, it's high intent, right? So when you go to Google and you go search something, you've gone there deliberately and you've gone and typed something into search. And so if you've got ads that are now popping up, that's relevant to what the person has actually searched for, right? That is way higher intent than, say, let's say scrolling through Facebook and you just happen to see an ad in your news feed. You're not looking for anything at that moment in time. And this is one of the reasons why Facebook ads, it's actually quite hard to get right now. I mean, there's the iOS update, you know, they took out a lot of interest targeting. So in other words, now the Facebook platform, in my honest opinion, it's no longer what it used to be. It's not as fantastic as it used to be, right? I feel that they kind of shot themselves in the foot with the way that they, you know, made all these changes. Obviously, I understand they've got their own reasons for doing that, but ultimately it's almost become like a TV show, right? So when you're on TV and you're literally just flicking through the channels and you see a sudden advert, it's kind of, that's the kind of experience that we're now getting with Facebook, right? So if you're in a very specific niche and you can't find those audiences on Facebook, you're going to have a very hard time, you know, actually finding people. So I would say a better traffic source for you would probably be something like YouTube, right? Why? Because you can target specific channels, you can go after specific keywords, and then your ads are going to pop up in those, right? And actually the costs as well are, you know, they're very good right now. That, you know, the amount of money that you would pay to acquire a lead is probably way better. The favors are actually, you know, it's actually in your favor to do it on a platform like that rather than to do it you know, in somewhere like that. But other things that I would look at email drops, right? So something that people don't really talk about that often, but find someone who's got a list that it is servicing where, you know, your ideal clients hang out, and, you know, offer to pay to basically send emails to that list.
This is still one of my favorite traffic sources, actually.
It's amazing traffic source. It really is. And I think the nice thing about doing this is there's very little risk involved, right? Because if you know this person is in the same, or like they're serving the same audience, you know that's they've done the hard work of building that list. You see what I mean? Like, you don't have to go through the stress or the headache of having to do that, and then you can see the performance quite quickly.
Yeah, no, I love that. We just started with one campaign last month, and it's pulled in, I'd say, an extra 80K to 100K ish a month.
Amazing.
Zero ad spend, mashallah. So I'm like, wow. And I'm like, okay, this is what, like, I used to do a lot of, so I used to own an agency called Solo Ads Agency back like 8-10 years ago. That's how I actually made my first 7 figures. Even my first 8 figures was all primarily down to email jobs.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was the first 8 figures or so came from email jobs, solo ads. And I owned this, I created an agency called Solo Ads Agency. I grew that to multiple 7 figures. And then the next, I guess these next multiple 8 figures came from me spending around 2.5-3 million on Facebook ads.
Crazy. That's funny, but obviously most people can't get started with that, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
I completely understand. And also strategic partnerships, right? Why? Because if someone's already got a fantastic audience, all you're doing is you're tapping into that audience. I mean, you could practically double the size of your business overnight just with the right strategic partnership.
Yeah, I love that, because I'm redoing my first book, Backpack Millionaire.
Yeah.
And then my next one, Recession Millionaire. So I want to basically get these two. And I feel like the last 10 years, there's 2 things that I slacked on, which was like writing books and then making videos. And so now the next 1 to 3 years, this is like a huge focus for me. So I want to ask you,
I'm going to
tell me all of it. I'm going to look at this.
You're going to do, oh, there you go. Amazing. Right. So if you're going to do a video strategy, my advice would be get onto answerthepublic.com. Okay. Type in your keyword, whatever relevant keyword in your industry, and that is going to throw back every single thing that somebody's typing into Google right now. They're actually searching for it. And what you want to do is, and this is the hack, those phrases, there will be actual key phrases, grab them. I would download the whole thing. So you'll have an option to download everything, right? Download it all. And then you want to take each of those as a standalone title, right? And what if you imagine you start now creating content, that number 1 is going to give you a ton of content ideas. Okay. Number 2, you will then become one of the top authorities if that's all you're doing is you're creating content with those titles. Well, so imagine just typing in, somebody's just putting a key phrase, right? How do I create a funnel for myself? Let's say that's one of the things that somebody's typed in. You're going to constantly pop up at number 1 on page number 1.
Okay, I'm on it.
There you go. You're on it. Amazing.
I don't like to waste time, so I'm going to get on it. There you go. Answer the public. Now, let me ask you this: in terms of so from mindsets to marketing mechanics, right? So for mindsets, the people that you've worked with, Dr. Eric Berg, Marissa Peer, let's just call them 8 to 9 figure entrepreneurs, right? Even if Dr. Eric Berg is I don't know if he's a 9-figure entrepreneur, but he's got 100 million views a month. Yeah. So let's just say, even if they've got a huge reach, what's the mindset that they approach to get that traffic? And then let's go from there.
I would say the number 1 thing that I've seen within these types of organizations is they're not afraid to test stuff. They will split test absolutely everything to death. They don't second guess, oh, should we try this? Should we try that? No, they have an idea for a campaign and they execute faster. This is one of the key things that I think makes a big difference, right? Money loves speed. So you execute as quickly as possible. You take your learnings from that. What worked? What didn't work? Go again. Right? And so you're constantly pushing yourself and you're constantly throwing things out there. Something's going to stick, right? But you take those learnings and then you split test. Okay. And I would say if you're going to split test, start with testing things like headlines. That's probably the easiest thing in the world to split test, right? Test one thing at a time until you're constantly, until you get to the desired result, right? Even with things like ads, okay, you got to test multiple different variations of the ads. You got to test multiple different headlines, different subject lines in emails. You literally got to be willing to test absolutely everything. And you got to be testing it.
Yeah. So then to execute all of this, you need a team, right? So
100%. You can't do this on your own.
Yeah. So what do you think is the key talents of the team members that these guys and girls bring on that allows them to scale from 8 to 9 figures?
So definitely they have to have a strategic understanding of business growth. I think that's extremely important. I do think that they have to have very strong core values, right? So for example, if one of your core values is we treat our clients' businesses like our own, they also have to be well behind that those sort of values, right? Why? Because at the end of the day, you can train a person with skill, but you can't train their will. right? So if you bring on the wrong person, if your mindset is, I just want to save as much money as possible, for example, right? I'm just going to bring in whoever I can, I'll get them trained up. But actually, the mindset is, it's a penny pinching mindset, right? I just want to get the maximum I can out of this person and pay them the least amount possible. Guess what? You're going to get very mediocre results, and don't be surprised if they leave very soon. What you want is, you want to focus on hiring A players that bring everything to their game. Like, you know, when they show up with excellence, right? They're always looking for, you know, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. You give them a task, you give them a challenge, they're going to rise to it. They don't look at it and start giving you excuses as to why they can't do it, right? So like, one of the things that I have learned is, when you're hiring people, you don't hire on the skill, because like I said, skill can be trained. You hire based on values, you hire based on culture, right? Do they have the right mindset? Is it a good fit for my team, right? There is another marketer that I know. He's actually one of my friends, actually, and he took his business literally to, like, was it over 100K? I mean, he's doing like 7-8 figures now, I believe. But when he was growing his team, he was looking at that time. I remember he put out an advert for somebody who runs Facebook ads. Do you want to know what he set the salary to? $180,000 is what he set the salary to.
Nice.
I was so shocked, and I asked him, like, why would you do that? And he said, why would I not? I only want the best, you know? So like, and that was his whole mindset was, I want nothing but the best. Because here's the problem: if you hire people that are not the best, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have a lot of problems to deal with, right? And the bigger the business, the bigger the problems, right? It's like my very first hire that I did inside of my own business. I hired a technical VA, right? Really nice guy. I can't fault him. A very nice person, but severe communication problems, right? He wouldn't show up. Like, his ethos was very lazy, right? So we'd have calls booked and he wouldn't show up for the calls. And I'm like, what's going on, right? At one point, he disappeared for 3 whole weeks and I didn't know where the hell he was. I was like, what's going on here? And I honestly, I convinced myself that this guy had died. I literally convinced myself he must have died, right? Because he was I don't know, he was in a part of the world where there was a lot of active volcanoes. And I remember around that time, there'd been some sort of, you know, volcano had exploded. And I was convinced, oh my God, this guy, he's got young kids, he's got caught up in that, you know. And then 3 weeks later, he showed up and I was like, what the heck happened? And he was like, I was depressed. I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
you know. And the thing is, though, this is how you got to think, right? You want your business to grow, you have to bring in the very best. End of story. Like, you don't have a world-class organization if you don't have world-class people inside of it, right? And so, like, this is probably one of the reasons why, when I go into certain organizations and my job is to basically help them and to really help them to scale, like, they bring me in because that's the skill that they don't currently have within their own organization, right? So you're only going to get as far as what everyone's skill set is inside of that business, right? And so if you want to really take your business over the top and you want to be a world-class organization, you've got to have world-class talent in there. End of story.
Nice. I love it. I love this. This is good. And then from marketing perspective, what have you seen work the best in terms of current clients, previous clients, like marketing campaigns that just has like blown you away? So I'll give you an example, right? Like one of the first time I hit 8 figures, which was 10 mil cash. It was basically because I identified, and there's different names, strategic partnerships, joint ventures, solo ads, whatever. But I identified it as integration marketing. So I basically found a company that had like 200,000 members. There's an online digital marketing forum type company, okay? And they basically said, who here wants to come and do 30-minute trainings? I came on, I did a 4.5-hour webinar.
Wow.
On the topic of solo ads.
Right.
And at the end, I was basically like, hey, if you want to learn more, go to soloadsagency.com, right? And that automatically built me a multiple 6-figure a month business. It just, like, within 12 months, it completely transformed. So every time I come in and I want to have a quantum leap, I find existing communities. For example, there's a reason why I have these awards, right? Because people that know these awards, they know about funnels. They're just so much easier for me to help and sell versus taking someone from absolute cold. Although you have to master cold traffic conversion
definitely
to hit scale, right? That's what I found. 8 figures plus comes from being able to convert cold traffic at scale. So I've done these campaigns multiple times and it nets huge amounts of basically cash and revenue or whatever, right? And so this is integration marketing through webinars. My next one that I'm planning to like double that. And when I do something, I do it to the extreme. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this book funnel thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to come up with like 4 to 6 books. Like one of them is going to hit, like because I have like the skeleton, I have the funnel. It's just like the front end, right? So it's like,
oh, so here's a little tip for you, right? So if you're gonna do that, one of the things that you can definitely do is you could do what you call micro books, right? So rather than waiting until your book is completely finished, I would release 1 chapter at a time and start building your list that way, right?
okay.
Like if I look at my own book, for example, there's certain chapters within that book that I would say is so unbelievably valuable that if I was to sell that as a standalone chapter, that in itself could create some major breakthroughs for people.
Okay.
And so that's how I would do it, right? Because, and this is going to force you to get your book done. So I know you said that you're going to be writing some more books and stuff, but you know, another tip, and I actually shared this on one of your coaching calls that I do with your students. By the way, for those of you who are watching, Shaq's program is amazing, like literally world class. So what I will say is, like, I told one of the students that, listen, you got to start getting smart about how you use your content, right? And so when I wrote Mind Hack Marketing, guess what? Half of the content came from the newsletters that I'd been writing to my list. So I have I mean, my list is very tiny compared to yours, right?
Well,
so
I've got 9 years of emails that I've been sending.
So mine is like really tiny, right? But my list is super engaged. I regularly clock in between 60 to 80% open rates is very normal for me, right? Which is insane, right? Because like people would look at that and they think, oh my God, like we haven't got open rates anywhere near like that. But my sort of ethos is very simple. When somebody reads one of my newsletters, I want them to go away feeling smarter. That's the whole point, right? So I actually have an intent behind every single newsletter. And because I went in with that mindset, all the stuff that I started producing, literally, it was good enough that I could put it into my final book, right? And so people who bought my book, they recognized a lot of the material, especially if they were on my list, they would have recognized a lot of that material. Right, that, oh, okay, like, but what I'd done is I'd actually put it into some structured, organized structure, right, into a way that people could actually figure it out and start making sense of it. Okay, obviously, when I'm, you know, sending stuff through my email list, I'm giving it to them in small bites. But sometimes those small bites, the way that I look at it is they should be so powerful that somebody should be able to take some sort of a lesson, a learning, a practical application and be able to go apply it to their own business.
Nice.
Right?
I like it. So in terms of basically quantum leap campaigns, right? So I shared with you like 1 or 2 of my own. Now I'm going to do it with books. What have you seen work with your clients that are like quantum leap campaigns? You're like, wow, I can't believe like they just did that.
Yeah, so short VSLs work really well, right?
How long?
5 to 10 minutes. Don't do it more than that. I think anything more than that is overkill. You got to remember, right? It's like we're in the age of Instagram and TikTok, right? And everything is like snackable content. So you have to start getting a little bit smarter about how you present content in front of people. Don't be afraid to share your best stuff, right? So that can work extremely well. Also, what I have seen is micro offers work really well, right? So small offers on the front end where people get an instantaneous result, and then all you're doing is you're just flipping them over, and you're just like upselling them into something bigger, right? That, like, for example, your challenge is a great example of that, right? It's a fantastic challenge, by the way, everyone, right? So your funnels 5-day challenge is brilliant. Why? They don't pay that much, but they are getting bang for their buck, right? This, I would say, is more probably for those people who are serious about building a proper business. But if you were going to get started and no one had ever heard of you, you would probably want to do a series of either very short videos or very short VSLs, or you would want to give something away that's like you can consume it in like 5 to 10 minutes or less. That's kind of where you want to put the focus. And then the hard work is actually done in the back end, right? So don't underestimate, you know, the value of the emails. Emails are freaking insane. I still say it is one of the best ways of keeping people engaged, to get them, you know, to pre-sell them, to upsell them, to downsell them, whatever you want to do. Emails is the way to do it, right? Why? Because if you do it through Facebook, you do it through Google, those are assets. Google owns that. What if Google just suddenly decided that they no longer want to have you on their platform? You're in serious trouble, right? So actually your goal should be, same with Facebook, right? How many businesses have lost out on Facebook because suddenly the targeting disappeared and the businesses just died overnight, right? So your goal really should be to build your email list as fast as possible, because that's a digital asset that you own. right? But you've also got to be very intentional with that asset, right? Don't just treat it as in, oh yeah, it's a moneymaker. No, give it a lot of respect, right? And this is why one of the things that I do is I'm really like into giving high value wherever I possibly can. One of the things that I've started, for example, inside of my list is I'm now starting to take some of the world's top performing campaigns and even some of the world's worst performing campaigns, and I systematically tear them down and break them down to figure out what makes them tick, so that those lessons, people can go and look at them and think, actually, that was fantastic. I can go and apply that to my business straight away. So it's making it tangible, right? I mean, marketing is not very intuitive for a lot of people, right? So one of the goals that I have is break it down, make it simple, make it intuitive and easy for other people to understand.
I love it. I love it. Hey, but I could go on. I've got plenty of notes, and like I said, I'm going to go and action these, starting with segmenting my list into 3 different avatars, starting with, and then definitely doubling down on the email drops, podcasts, books, lots of things. I'm going to ask maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
In terms of the people that you've seen launch certification offers, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, basically, this I could break down as courses, agency, and certifications, right? Like for me, the certifications was the one that was probably the most profitable, right? Because it's like we were selling $10,000, $20,000 certifications in one of my brands. What have you seen to work for certifications? Why do they work? Why do they fail? And if you were to launch one, how would you structure it? This is like advice for myself, right?
Advice for yourself, right? So look, you got to remember, why do people want the certifications in the first place? Because they are missing a skill that they don't currently have, right? And so the reason why they're so powerful is, aside from giving people a sense of major achievement, I mean, when you get a certification, you feel damn proud, right? You know, that's just how it is, right? You feel very proud, but also it's one step closer to your goals, right? So whatever it is that you're looking at achieving, that's enabling them to do one thing that they might not have been able to do. For example, if let's say they come into your agency and they get a funnels certificate, yeah, guess what? That certification is now giving other people, it's like an authority or a trust mark, right? Oh, this person has now endorsed you and said that you're good enough to be able to do this. And so what that does is it adds a brand new skill set to that person. It's a profitable skill set that they can now then go and monetize, right? And so here's the secret in doing stuff that other, you know, if you want a certification program that works and works really well, go for something that, number 1, no one else is offering, okay? Number 2, there is a massive need for, and number 3, where maybe you've even seen other people offering it, but it's not as good as what you can do. You know, you can do a better job, right? And then go gung-ho, and what are the sort of end transformation? How's this going to change that person's life? If I think about, for example, when I started my copywriting journey, and this is going back like 13 years ago now, I started my journey in 2010. And when I basically worked with Paul Hancock's, right? I had no idea then that this is where my life would get to. It didn't even occur to me. I just wanted to make money to take care of my kids. That's it. But it's enabled me to grow a 6-figure business, right? And it's growing. I'm actually going through like a rapid growth phase in my business right now, right? And so it's growing quite radically, right? And the thing is, though, where did that start and where did it end up? I had no idea where I just, like I said, I just wanted to make some money, right? But here's the thing, you've got to paint a picture of what success looks like for that person. What can they do with those skills once they've actually got them? How is their life going to completely change? Right now, I can pretty much walk into any, you know, major organization in the world and I can say, hey, look, I've got a proven 13-year track record of very high performance. I've done 9 figures in sales. I'm, you know, a published author. I've got all of this, you know, and then I've created all these amazing campaigns, right? And people are going to take me seriously. But when I started, that's not where I thought I would end up. I had no idea where I was going to end up. I didn't have a vision. So I think that's very key. Like if you're going to do a great certification program, have a vision for where that is going to take that person and then double down on that and make sure that you're talking about it in a way that is completely different to everyone else. So if you look at Digital Marketer, for example, right, they've got a whole host of certifications. What do they tell people? Oh, this is going to help you become a full stack marketer. You can literally go in and set up your own agency if you wanted to, right? You can go help people, you know, solve problems inside of their business and make a lot of money yourself, right? And so that's become a very valuable key. In fact, when people see that on people's, you know, so if someone's got that on their CV, people know, oh, this is not just theory. This person didn't just go get a degree. This person has now got actionable, practical knowledge. It's really crazy. I mean, I've got friends of mine, two of my friends actually have got MBAs. One's got MBA in business, the other one's got an MBA in marketing. Both of them said to me, Arva, you know more about marketing than we do, and we got MBAs in it, right? And it's because why? Not because of the theory, it's because of the practical stuff. So when you're going to do your certifications, make sure it's super practical. Don't just focus on theory, focus on stuff that they can take away and start implementing and actioning immediately. That's what's going to make the difference. That's the difference, I think, between a fantastic certification and one that's just mediocre.
Okay. Nice. This is a random question, but have you ever tried stuff like sponsorships?
I personally haven't tried sponsorships, but one of my clients did, and it didn't work very well. Right. It just didn't. It was, I feel like it was the wrong medium. So this client basically did a TV sponsorship. They sponsored a show for 4 months and they made a stinging loss. So it just didn't work for them, even though it was their target market, it was their ideal market, everything. Problem is with sponsorships, and this is going to be my piece of advice, right? Like if you're considering sponsorships, number one, you want to ask for actual physical numbers. Okay. How many people are going to see your offer? How many people typically go check it out, right? What do those, like, let's say if you're doing it inside of emails or whatever, right? Like, what do those open rates look like? What do those click-through rates look like? Work out your numbers, do the maths first, work it out first, and then figure out whether or not it's worth it. Because from my experience, from what I have seen with my clients, sponsorships are extremely expensive, but they don't necessarily give you a return. It's more sort of brand awareness than anything else, right? What you want is you want to be teaching and you want to be showcasing your expertise instead. I would say that's way more powerful than just having a sponsorship, because it's no different to, you know, a football player having, you know, a sports, you know, sponsorship on their shirt. It's literally no different, right? What you want instead is you want to create like immense value with your audience. And remember, like when you're online, especially online, people are naturally very skeptical. So actually your focus should be on getting rid of their skepticism. So rather than doing a sponsorship, I'd rather get on a podcast with someone. I'd rather deliver a training for them. I'd rather do stuff that is practical and where people can, from their audience, can see that I can add a lot of value. They can see my authority, my credibility in action.
I like that. I like that a lot. Alpha, this has been insanely valuable. In terms of where can people find you? How does that look? What's your links to your socials so I can also plug them?
Yeah,
if you're listening to this on the podcast, definitely subscribe to this podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave me a comment below. If you're watching this on Facebook, like as it's being live zoomed right now, leave us some feedback. Alpha, thank you so much. Tell us where people can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook. So if you just type in Arfa Saira Iqbal, but you can also go to my website, arfasairaiqbal.com. I'm also, you can check my book out on Amazon. It is Mind Hack Marketing. Shaq, I'm so upset you still haven't got a copy of my book.
I'm gonna get one. I did promote you to all my best customers because I just know I just know it'll be very good. Just because I've worked with you for a long time now. But amazing. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate your time and energy, Arfa.
Okay. I'll send you the link so you can put them up as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I always learn from you, so I'm ready to get cracking on. I appreciate you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
See ya.
Amazing. Take